I am here to present my seminar on apical puff, being blinded by the radiographic beauties. So today's content that we'll be discussing today in the seminar is first of all what are puffs, and second then we'll be talking about the beginning and from where it started, talking at cross purposes, the case reports that show the sealer puffs, and finally the conclusion. First of all, what is apical puff? In the literature, it has been quoted under various names, varying from Boston's puff to Schilder's puff and sealer puff and sealer buttons. The original account of this particular term was as Schilder's puff or sealer's puff in Dr. Herbert Schilder's classic article about filling the root canal in 3 dimensions. So this is another article. As such, there is no particular definition that has been given out in any part of the literature. But yes, there are certain logical statements that have been made regarding what are sealer puffs. So this article by Peng et al. In the year 2007 and also by Gomes, AC and his colleagues in the year 2015 states this definition of apical puff, which is the extrusion of sealing material into the periapical region, that is apical sealer puffs, is well described in root canal treatment, and apical sealer puffs are the result of overextension of the filling materials. However, at the same time, I'd like to mention that then again the sealer puffs are not the clear overextensions of filling materials. For this, I'll be discussing about overextension and overfilling in a separate part. Now, where did the concept arise? It started with Dr. Herbert Schilder, and when he gave the idea of three-dimensional root filling, and this article was a constituent of the DCNA in the year 1967 around, and this was called as the Schilder's obturation technique. So this was given out in the year 1967. Now, talking of the start of the sealer puffs, it began from a very beautiful description of an obturation technique to what became a misinterpreted past for the Facebook's elite club. And all the time they have been talking at the cross purposes when Dr. Schilder meant sealer puff in some other way, and what was interpreted was the sealer puff is the criteria to assess the root canal treatment success. However, this is not the case, and to prove this, I'd like to show you this particular statement that has been put out by the Schilder Institute for Advancement of Endodontics on Facebook by one of his students, which clearly states that the sealer puff that is there, it is to be produced in its needlessness, and it is not the right way to consider it to garner a right or label to be a part of some elite club. So Schilder's technique of obturation or the vertical compaction technique of warm gutta percha is the thing that came up with sealer puffs as an adjuvant or an effect of the complete and the entire obturation of the root canal system in its true sense. So first we'll be discussing about what was his technique. The first armamentarium that we used was the pluggers, first of all, that are most important in this technique for obturation. The pluggers that you see on your screens are from Dentsply, and these are available in various numbers starting from 8 till 12, and they are available in half sizes as well. This is the corresponding diameter which is available for each diameter, and like we can see, these pluggers have markings at 5 mm interval for the complete measurement of the root canal system, and also to assess at what depth we have placed our pluggers. And this particular plugger is for teeth less than 30 mm, and this one is the shorter one. This is for teeth less than 25 mm length, and this is categorized as A and P pluggers. The A is for anterior series and P is for posterior series. At the same time, if you notice, if there are 5 mm working lengths, so for teeth less than 30 mm, the whole length of the working end of the plugger is going to be 25 mm in its true sense. Reason being that a 3 to 4 mm of plug in the apical area for the gutta percha has to be left out, and it is considered in the length while marking it. So this is the color coding scheme for all the pluggers that are available. And These are the most important constituent of the backfilling part as well as the downpack part of the Schilder's technique of obturation. Next is the heat carrier, which is another important armamentarium in this technique of obturation. This can be either in this format, which is the hand spreader that can be used, or it can be also the finger spreader that is normally used in the lateral condensation technique of obturation. Now, the heat carrier that is given here is very important again. This is also available in the OP and the OOP heat carrier series. The double O states that the diameter is slightly thinner of the heat carrier, and this is going to be used. The term spreader is not commonly being quoted by Schilder in his obturation technique, and Dr. Schilder prefers to quote the term heat carrier for this, because the only purpose of this instrument per se in this obturation technique is to transfer the heat to the gutta percha and change its form to slightly molten part, and then go ahead with compaction. So the GP points that are being used in this technique are the non-standardized GP points. Now these earlier this was the non-standardized form, which was used from fine, medium fine, extra fine, and medium, large, and large categories of the gutta percha points. But nowadays, because of the improvement in the obturation techniques and the materials that are available, the gutta percha points that are being used these days are autofill and auto cut GPs. So basically, they already have a feather tip, and it eliminates the use of cutting the tip at the end. Another important part after this heat carrier instrument is that the pluggers have to be pre-fitted in the root canal before we start with the obturation, for which we need to understand that the biggest size of the plugger that the root canal can accommodate should be within coronal 3 to 4 mm of the root canal system length, and after that we keep on increasing the size, and while we proceed apically, so it goes from larger to smaller, and that is how we select the sizing of the apical plugger. Now the sizing again is very important, and finally the text by Dr. Arnaldo Castellucci states that most commonly the sizes that are required for obturation are ranging from 8 to 11 normally, and it is very rare that 11 and a half or 12 number size of the plugger is to be used. Next, now coming to the sealer that is used in this technique is basically the original technique of Dr. Schilder's obturation used the Grossman's non-staining sealer, which was available by Kerr in the name of Tubely Seal EWT as well as the Tubely Seal normal. And the application that he quotes is using the Lentulus spiral that is to be applied in the root canal system. Now, the sealer that he quotes to be placed in the root canal has to have a film thickness of only a few microns, because Dr. Schilder's technique does not incorporate or solely depend upon the sealer to bond the GP to the root canal system, and he advocates the least possible use of the sealer that can be in this obturation technique. Now, starting with the obturation technique, the core of it, I like to share this video. Now, first is the selection of the master cone that we see. Dr. Schilder has advocated the selection of master cone based on the apical gauging technique, in which slightly gradual taper taking gutta percha cones are placed within the root canal, and they are checked using the apical gauging technique, in which the fit of the cone is slightly assessed using the tug back. He also states that it is better to cut off the tip of the gutta percha cone, reason being that the sharp tip of the gutta percha can bind in any of the root canal irregularities or ill deformities. So that is why it is important to cut it at the end and then place it inside the root canal, and this is how the check is done for the master cone of the gutta percha that is to be used. Now, after checking the gutta percha, and if we find it comfortable, this is selected as the master cone, and radiograph is taken after this point, because we need to assess the complete length up till which the master cone is going. Now, next is the placement of the sealer, which is done using the Lentulus spiral, and Dr. Herbert Schilder clearly states that the sealer placement is to be done in very minimal streaks which have to be just lightly applied onto the walls, and it has to be carried uh, through very carefully, and it is not to be, the canal is not to be filled completely with the sealer. So this is how the sealer is to be stroked upon the walls in the root canal system. And also in this technique, like we can see, only the apical part of the master cone has been coated with sealer. However, the true Schiller technique would not amount that much of sealer to be put inside the root canal. Reason being that there is a slight chance of extrusion of the filling material. So it is to be coated with the lentular spiral only. Now coming to the downpack part of the root canal obturation. Now after the master cone has been put on, a ball burnisher is taken to sear off the obturation cone, the master cone, at the coronal end, and this is done using the regular technique that we use after heating or the instrument using the alcohol flame torch, or by the system or touch and heat obturation machines that are available these days. Now next, coming to the downpack part, this that we can see is the plugger with these markings which are placed. Now this is the plugger that is fitting on the in the coronal part of the root canal. This will travel to the middle part, and this is the one that we require to go into the apical third part of the root canal, and this is how we select the markings and select the sizing of the pluggers that we are going to use for our obturation. So this grows from the larger size to the smaller size of the plugger, and this should fit within this range, at least last 4 to 5 mm of the apical part of the canal. Now coming to this, when the plugger sizes have been decided, we can also, sorry, we can also decide for the markings that are given on the pluggers, and at the same time we can use stoppers. Now Dr. Herbert Schilder has clearly stated in his article that at any point pluggers are not meant to be heated. When the pluggers are heated, they can change their form and they can lose their stiffness, become more flexible. So the pluggers are to be used in the cold state only, and the one that is heated is the heat carrier instrument or the spreader. And pluggers are not meant to be heated. So this is how we can use the stoppers to create marking levels, so that we know after which part and after which segment condensation, which size of the plugger goes next, in case if the pluggers are especially non-color coded. So this is how we decide for the pluggers. Next, the flame that is to be used for heating the spreader, Dr. Schilder recommends it to be the gas torch part, reason being because it wastes lesser time and lesser dissipation of heat occurs. This is how you sear off at the coronal end. Now, a plugger is taken to condense this part which has already warmed up by the heat carrier. So this is how you place the plugger onto the coronal part of the gutta percha. And when the plugger is placed, it is going to compact due to the physical forces. The GP is going to get compacted towards the apical end, and a lateral pressure slightly is created. So at the same time, if you can notice, when the plugger is taken out, the GP comes along with it, some of it outside. So this is what we intend to do in Dr. Herbert Schilder's technique of obturation, that when we carry the heat carrying material, it is inserted around 3 to 4 mm for the depth of only 3 to 4 mm inside the GP point. So what it does is it softens this complete gutta percha. However, it does not liquefy the gutta percha completely, and it transfer these heat waves throughout the gutta percha cone, but it only travels till a short distance of 2 to 3 mm, and this heat does not reach the apical end of the gutta percha master cone. So only the upper coronal 3 to 4 mm has been heated and softened, after which the plugger that is used in the cold state is placed inside, and it, since it is cold, when we compact using the plugger, some part of the GP sticks out on the plugger and it is taken out of the canal. It is not to be placed back. So this is what we intend at creating. This is how the GP is going to be removed from the center part, and some of it sticks on the walls, and this is what we aim to do in this obturation technique. Also, the heat, that is the amount of heat that is provided to the carrier, is also important. If the spreader is not heated to cherry redness or completely flaming hot red, the spreader itself is going to pull out the gutta percha cone outside of the root canal. So that is unnecessary and that is not required. So the heat spreader should be heated completely and till the cherry red hotness point. So next is, after doing this 3 to 4 mm of the coronal part, after we have compacted this part of the canal, and this is how the GP comes out. We have to move ahead in similar 3 to 4 mm steps only, and it is not to be done at one go. So we have to be very careful with it. This is how the GP is going to come out, and this is the whole mechanism of doing the down pack. Slowly and steadily, we keep progressing towards the midway of the canal system, root canal system. And when we are doing this, we can see that some part of the lateral canals, also as quoted by Dr. Herbert Schilder, some part of the lateral canals gets slightly filled up with this gutta percha compaction technique, like we can see here. And this is how, when we reach the halfway or the midway of the root canal system, we need to take an X-ray to make sure how much compaction has taken place of the gutta percha. Now next, we continue to do so until we reach the apical 3 to 4 mm part of the root canal. At this point, it is very important to note that when the last few of the gutta percha is left in the canal, Dr. Schilder has not quoted the complete amount or the particular that has to be measured. But yes, when we realize from the working length assessment and the amount of depth we have already penetrated using the pluggers, that if we have reached within the last few of the apical third part of the root canal, the heating instrument that is carried only till the top of the gutta percha cone, and it is not to be carried till the apex part of the obturation cone. So at this point, when the obturation is done, we do not intend to heat and liquefy or change the state of the gutta percha at the apex. And what we are trying to do is compact the apical GP using the physical forces of compaction, using the pluggers only, and not by changing the state of the gutta percha. So this is how we carry the heat. There is a continuous wave of heat that is traveling across, and after this, it is carried forward and spreader is taken uh, out of the canal. When we place the plugger is removed. The plugger is removed, and after that, the heat carrier is again placed to make sure that all the GP has been taken out. So this is how we carry forward. This is the complete obturation. Now at this point, that like we can easily see that we have already taken out the core of the GP outside. So what remains in this obturation during the first downpack is that we have a complete lining of GP on the outer walls of the root canal in true sense, and the hole inside the core area is empty. So we have an empty core, and the GP has filled out the lateral canals that are there inside the root canal system. Now this is the reason that we expect our root canal to contain least amount of sealer, because the accessory canals that are present, Dr. Herbert Schilder strictly states that it has to be filled using the gutta percha only, and there is no point filling the lateral canals with resorbable cement, because in the end it is going to resorb and get soluble, and after that it is going to be absent in the canals, so it serves no use. At the same time, he also states that there may be certain fine canals which cannot accept the gutta percha due to the film thickness of GP. So those canals will be filled using the sealer which is available in the minimum amount. And even though we desire GP to fill it, but because of the thickness of those lateral canals, at least filling them with sealer rather than leaving them unobturated can be desired. Now, next part of this obturation is the backfill that is started after the complete compaction. This is the heat wave that has already been provided, and the lateral canals, like we can see, already are filled using this technique because of the pressure that is created and because of the continuous wave-like heat that is provided. So now coming to the backfill part of the obturation. For the backfill, there are already sections of GP that are decided using the non-standard GP only, which are pre-fitted in advance to check their fit at the apex and the coronal and the middle third part. So the GP cones that are larger to fit at the apex are the ones that are selected for the coronal and the middle part of the filling. And then again, small sections of this GP cone from about 3 to 4 mm are cut in parts, and they are heated with the carried on the heat carrier, and then they are placed inside the root canal, after which they are compacted using the pluggers again. So this is how we place the GP segment, after which the plugger is carried forward and the plugger is compacted over this heated segment. As the plugger is compacted, the core of the root canal system or the core of the GP is again filled back, but in a very opposite direction. Like we remember while doing the down pack, we had to go from coronal to apical part. While coming for the backfill, we come from the heat wave going on from the apex to the coronal part, and this is how you carry the GP segments, and then you again compress using the pluggers that are available. Now this is the clinical technique that is to be used. This is how you carry the GP segment inside the root canal and you place it inside. Then you condense it using the plugger. Pluggers have to be used at the cold state only. They are not meant to be heated. Another important point that Dr. Schilder has quoted is that at any point, if we need to curve the plugger because of the curvature of the canal, then the plugger is not to be shaped back to its original straight form. The plugger is to be left so in its curved state only, and it can be used later on for any tooth which has a similar canal curvature. He states that a rebending of the plugger causes the plugger to become more flexible and it lets it lose its rigidity. So it will not serve us the purpose of giving a complete or the correct compaction technique. So much so that the plugger can become so much flexible that it can even break inside the root canal, and it can lead to an iatrogenic error. So that is why the pluggers are to be used in a very cold state, and the spreaders are to be used in a heated form. Then again, the spreaders have a pointed end and the pluggers are blunt. Also, he tips off the endodontist to dip the plugger tip in the cement powder so that the gutta percha does not stick to the plugger and come out very easily at unexpected areas, and the operator is going to have complete control of the obturation technique throughout the period of obturation. So this is how stages of heat and again the compression heat and again the compression are carried out, and that is why there is a continuous wave-like obturation that is done in this technique. And this is the obturation technique basically which was given by Dr. Schilder, and this is how we complete with the complete and the final obturation, filling up till the coronal third. So in case if the tooth has to go for a post and cast post and core or any post and core for that matter, if we feel it is going up till this length, then the obturation can be left halfway through at that level. If we expect the tooth to go for a post and core restoration, or post endodontic restoration is to be for the post and core type, so we can leave the obturation of the backfill till the half part or till the length of the post that is to be desired at this point itself only. So the force that is created as stated by Dr. Schiller has already filled the lateral canals, and this is what is going to create the classical Schiller puff or the apical puff that we see. But again, now the most important thing here to note is that the root canal is going to be obturated only till the apical constriction part. So this is what Dr. Schilder has been talking all the time about, and all the colleagues, Dr. Frank, Dr. Langeland, papers by Dr. Wien as well, all of them have stated that the root canal obturation should end at the CDJ level. But Dr. Schilder has again very beautifully stated CDJ is a very histological structure and it cannot be clinically seen in the root canals. So the operator is expected either to have a lot much experience and get a hand of the control and the feel of the CDJ that is there, or it is to be done using the histopath studies. But in vivo and while we are doing the root canal procedures, the histopath is very difficult to assess. And also, since the articles by Cutler and his colleagues and also by Wien and Langeland state that CDJ level is very different for all the root canals, they also state that the CDJ can vary for the walls within the root canal itself. So it can be 0.5 mm from the radiographic terminus at the buccal wall, but it can stay within a variation of around even 3 to 4 mm at the opposite wall within the same root canal. So it can vary from being oval, oblong, ribbon shape to any particular shape, and the position of the CDJ within the root canal, within a single root canal itself, can vary a lot. So this is not a reliable criterion. What they came to conclude was that we can fill the obturation up till 0.5 to 1 mm short of the radiographic apex during the obturation, and this is what Dr. Schilder supports in his obturation technique to fill it within the CDJ that is assessed to be zero point 0.5 to 1 mm within the short zero point 0.5 to 1 mm coronal to the radiographic apex. So this is how the complete obturation is going to look like. And when the obturation is done till this part of the root canal, this is what is going to create the sealer puff due to extrusion of the sealer. And this is the puff that is created. Now then again, Dr. Schilder again states that the sealer puffs within 1 mm are not a major thing to worry about, and beyond 1 mm, the sealer puff or any extrusion material that goes out of the canal is unacceptable to the healing tissues, and it is unacceptable to the periodontal health as well. So at any point in his articles, Dr. Schilder has never quoted creation of a sealer puff. Instead, he has told that its value is only at the point of needlessness and when it is inconsequential. We'll be talking about this in the further slides. So this is how the root canal, we can see homogeneously is obturated, and it is going to carry forward, and this is a sealer puff that we can see, a very minor sealer puff that has been created. So this is basically an adjuvant effect of this complete obturation in its wholeness. So the entirety of the root canal has been filled and obturated, and this is how we expect the complete root canal filling to be done in our cases. And this we can see on the simulated models and the transparent tooth that we see that the lateral fills have been created. So Dr. Schilder very clearly quotes that these lateral fills and the lateral puffs that are there should form only at the point of a portal of exit of the root canal. These portals of exits can be various and they can be many, but again we cannot identify all of them, and we do expect some of them to end up in lateral canals or form at the apical delta area in various other regions. But in the classical Schilder's obturation technique, Dr. Cliff Ruddle states that the maximum puff that is going to form is around the lateral endings of the root rather than the apical seal area. So the apical puff will not contain much amount of sealer as much as will the lateral puff. Again, while I say this, I will maintain the statement that the puff that is to be created is going to stay within the 1 mm of the root canal. Now, before we understand the sealer puff concept, let's understand what is overextension and overfilling, which is the most important part, and this led to the creation of sealer puff. Overextension, when we talk about, is in the vertical dimension. So, if my root canal length is 20 mm and I use a single cone technique and push my GP to around 22 mm or 25 mm, that is overextension, and it is only measured in 2D or in the vertical direction, which is seen from the radiographic apex, and that is what we call overextension or the underextension. Overfilling, when we talk of, it is in a three-dimension region. So when we are talking of overfilling, we mean the lateral and in-depth as well as the vertical and complete extent of the root canal filling. So my apical width and apical extent, the length of the master cone as well as the width of the master cone, should fit in. Now, the apical width concept, it was coined by Dr. Joe and his colleagues, and they have there have been many controversies ever since then about stating the correct apical width that is to be maintained. But when we are doing the the Schilder's obturation technique, what is advocated is by the Schilder mechanics of preparing a canal, the mechanical objective. He has always stated that the root canal width or the apical width should be kept as small as practical, and it is not possible as small as practical, not possible. So the practicality of keeping the width of the obturation of the root canal system lies within the continuous taper that is to be provided. So rather than improving or increasing the apical size, the more important factor which plays the role in sealer puff creation is the gradual taper that has to be maintained within the root canal. Now, if we go back to the previous slide, we can see the taper that has been created is a very gradual one. Now, if the taper is of this kind, only then we can contain the resistance form of the endodontic obturation. And that is how and that is why the tapers are created, so that the length control of the obturation can be maintained. If this is not done to a gradual taper and it is in a straight or parallel form, the GP will go straight out and the sealer will also extrude out in the periapical spaces. So this is the concept of overextension and overfilling. Then again, Dr. Schiller does state that overfilling is a concept that cannot be clinically estimated. So I cannot estimate exactly if the canal has been overfilled or it has been overextended, and the like of this opinion has been shared by Dr. Clifford Ruddle as well. So this overfilling or terminology that was used in a certain period of endodontist era, this can be caused as a this can be called as a semantics, because it is not in the true sense easily distinguishable from overextension based on just a 2D radiograph. So Dr. Schiller has again stated that excess material beyond the CDJ probably plays no part in healing and should be avoided solely on the basis of its needlessness and its possible potential for discomforting the patient at the time of the filling procedure. So then again, we can clearly see that he has stated that overfillings and the sealer puffs that are created are not something that are desired all the time, and it is not a thing that a clinician should aim for. It is just an added effect of a complete overfilling of the canal. That slight sealer extrusion occurs at the apex, and that also within a 1 mm duration. So that is why we can say that the sealer puff that is going to be created within a 1 mm is again a measure of how we have maintained the apical patency as well as the Schilder's mechanical objectives while creating and while preparing the root canal system. Next is about apical patency. Another concept that the sealer puff shares is with apical patency. Dr. Schiller states that apical patency, when it is maintained within the root canal, there is a complete cleanliness and there is a communication that is there in the periodontal tissues and the root canal system. So this patency has established the extrusion of of the sealer inside the PDL space to a limited extent if we follow the Schiller's mechanical objective of preparation. Now, glossary of terms of American Association of Endodontists defines patency as as preparation technique in which the apical region of root canal is kept clear or debris by recapitulating through the physiological foramen file. Simple meaning is that when we use the Schilder's technique for preparation of the root canal, we tend to use the smaller file in the process of preparing the root canal, which is called as recapitulation, and we use a smaller length file to clear the dentinal debris at the apex. And when we maintain the apical patency, there is going to be a clear indication that a sealer puff might be created if we follow the complete obturation technique as stated by Dr. Schilder, and if the preparation is in confines of the root canal system, staying 0.5 to 1 mm short of the radiographic apex that we see. Now that was about sealer puff, and by now we have understood that the sealer puff that results is an effect of the complete filling of the root canal rather than an intentional creation of a sealer puff to assess the prognosis of the tooth. So here are few case reports that have discussed about the sealer puff. This article by Barry Musicant in the magazine Dentistry Today has stated that the sealer puff is a sign that apical patency was maintained throughout the entire process. While it is not a sign of treatment superiority, it does signify the cleaning and shaping performed fulfilled the goals of canal shaping, in that the apical foramen was kept at its original size and position, and the original position of the canal was maintained. Now, another article by Dr. Clifford J. Ruddle, Filling Root Canal System Carrier Based Obturation with Gutta Core, he again states that upon long term examination of his clinical evaluation and the root canal sealers and the root canal obturation using the Gutta Core technique, he states that it is reassuring to see a sealer puff associated with a well fitted root canal system versus a sealer puff that has vanished because of the solubility. So, then again, this is a very important thing that when we use a sealer, if the sealer puff is tended to resorb, or if we are expecting the sealer to go away or get solubilized in the periradicular tissues, that also states that we are somewhere expecting a root canal to fail, because if the sealer gets solubilized or if it vanishes, it is going to create that space for micro leakage. So at any point we do not want the dissolution of the sealer per se in the periodontal space itself or in the tissue fluids, and this is again going back to the Grossman's properties of the ideal sealer that we had read about. Now, this is another article by Alan H. Gluskin, Anatomy of an Overfill, which is a reflection on the process. He states in his article that one thing which is to be remembered about all sealers while we get an extrusion or sealer puffs is that all obturation sealers are irritants in their freshly mixed states. After setting or curing, some sealers lose their irritant components and become relatively inert. All sealers are absorbable, then again proving the point that we do not have any ideal sealer that matches all the ideal properties. The components of sealers will be managed by the immune system in the process of absorption, and the paste intended to fill the entire root canal system will be absorbed more rapidly than the solid core obturations with sealers that are done. And the solid core obturations that are available are only the silver cone and the gutta percha method. So other thing, the cements that are to be used in entire amount for filling the whole root canal is again the more is more potentially absorbable than the solid core obturations. Then again, a minimum amount of sealer should be exposed to the periapical tissue, because then again it can create a reaction due to the immune response and because of the biofilm creation that is there on the extruded material outside the root canal. The highlights of this particular study have also quoted that root filling extrusion was also characterized as being significantly influenced by operator behavior. Now, ever since Dr. Schiller's article came out and apical puffs became a common thing to discuss about, the operator's mechanism was driven by creating sealer puffs rather than looking at the complete preparation of the root canal system. So that is why this operator behavior led to the increasing cases of extrusion of sealer as well as gutta percha material in the root canal without keeping a track of how much sealer extrusion has taken place. And in other literature that has been quoted by other pioneers like Dr. Langeland and Dr. Frank, they all have stated along with Dr. Schiller that greater than 1 mm can be a cause of concern for the endodontist, because it is bound to produce a immune response from the body, from human body, and it can create an adverse reaction at that particular point, even leading to certain point of prolonged post-operative pain if a sealer extrusion or sealer puff without keeping a track of the value and the length of the sealer puff created has been given out. Another important highlight is that it is increasingly recommended in the recent literature that sealer overfills into the inferior alveolar nerve need to be assessed immediately for symptoms and removed surgically if IAN damage is suspected. Now, this is another case which was discussed with the medico-legal aspects of two cases, is the extrusion of endodontic filling materials. So there were two case reports in this, and both of them discussed about sealer puff that was created within the mandibular molar as well as the upper lateral incisor. So these two cases created post-operative pain to such an extent that the patients were in pain for about almost 1 to 1.5 years. And when the patients got this pain tested at some other clinic than their treating dentist, the person found out the cause to be the extrusion and the periapical presence of the sealing material as well as some amount of gutta percha. And as soon as periradicular surgeries were done and the extruding material were removed, it was stated that the patients were free of pain and there was no symptom as such after the surgeries. So this led to the medico-legal action against those dentists who had performed the extrusion of the endodontic filling materials just to create the radiographic beauties. So according to ADA, overfilling by more than 2 mm past the radiological apex represents a technical error ascribable to over-instrumentation, inadequate measuring, or a lack of an apical stop. So just another point here, that if we create a sealer puff using either uh, the least possible obturation technique, that is a single cone technique, or even using the bioceramic sealers using in the whole quantity, the sealer puffs that are created are not an indication that we are doing it because of the complete uh, filling or the 100% filling of the root canal. It can be an indication that we have either not kept the apical foramen within the confines of the root canal system, or we have also we can state that we have done some iatrogenic error or any perforation or transportation of the apical foramen that led to the coming out or the extrusion of the sealer to some extent. And these sealer extrusions can be really harmful in case of lower molars. So this is another case report that discusses the infection related mental and inferior alveolar nerve paresthesia that was created due to this sealer puff. So many practical clinicians tend to avoid the usage of calcium hydroxide sealers, reason being that the calcium hydroxide sealers, if they extrude out of the root canal in the periapical area, especially in the mandibular molars, because of the vicinity of the inferior alveolar nerve bundle, it is very much likely that this sealer puff can create problem for the patient in this particular area, which can be an obvious paresthesia. So such patients have to be followed up on a long-term basis in case if an extrusion of the sealer or the GP material is expected. So now coming to the big question, is the puff required? First of all, apical puffs are not a criteria to assess the success or the prognosis of the root canal treatment. And again, like Dr. Schilder stated, that it is the puff are to be considered only in the state of needlessness and uh, inconsequential preparation of the root canal. So when it is done, when we prepare the root canal thinking that we do not require the apical puff, and even if it is created, then we can consider it to be a normal within 1 mm. But if it is aimed at during the prior planning of the treatment that we want to create an apical puff in this particular case, that is not how the preparation and obturation was told by Dr. Schilder. So this is not the thing that is to be aimed at the pre-treatment basis. This is a consequence of 100% and the entire filling of the root canal system. So that is why it is not such a necessary or an important thing to be detailed onto while treating our patients. What is more important to assess the success is the patient's symptoms and the patient comfort. At any point, whenever the sealers are present, sealers are going to create a irritating response in the periodontal tissue. So that is why it has to be kept in mind that the success is to be assessed using the patient discomfort or the patient comfort scale. Next is vital teeth. The lateral fills are unnecessary. Now, this is another article by Dr. David Clark, and he states when the teeth are vital, the lateral canal fills are not important. Reason being that he has studied the histopath of many teeth in which vital teeth were given a root canal treatment, and the lateral canals did contain the vital pulp tissue, but it stayed in a very coexistent format, or just like a deep pulp capping. So that is why he stated that if an RCT is to be done on the vital teeth, the lateral fills are unnecessary. So we do not aim at filling the lateral canals during the RCT of a vital teeth. Next is filling the root canal entirety is the key, and this is the thing, this is the key factor, this is the key point that Dr. Schiller has always been talking about in all of his article, which has been misinterpreted into a into creating radiographic pleasing beauties that can lead to a success prognosis, a false success prognosis scale measurement. So this is what Dr. Schilder talks about in the case of overfilling. And overfilling again now is a concept that is fading out, because this again cannot be measured while doing a clinical root canal treatment, because we cannot assess at any point that we have filled the root canal to its entirety. We can only be sure of the procedures and the steps that we have followed during the root canal treatment. So in necrotic cases, it has been advocated. This is only one article that states so by Dr. Picuti in the year 1983, and now this original article is also not available. Probably it was taken down. And the necrotic cases, they state that the infection and the inflammation does stay harbored within the lateral canal. So it is important to clean the canal and then fill the lateral canals. So even in this article, they do not advocate the creation of sealer puff, because at all times sealer puff is nothing that is to be created. It is an effect of the obturation that is there. Now, if an apical puff is created, all the studies, all the literature to escape the medical or the medical legal aspect of any liability towards the patient, all literature supports that a patient should be maintained on a clear follow up when extrusion is expected within the root canal treatment. So, if we see the root canal obturation has flown out to the periodontal tissue beyond a section of 1 mm, it is very important to keep a record of the patient. And if the patient does not show any subsiding of symptoms and the patient is still in pain, or there is any uneasiness or nerve sensation paresthesia that we can expect, it will be important to go to undergo a periradicular surgery and remove the extruded material out of the root canal. Now, another article that has also given a very sensible advice is that since this criteria of performing a periradicular surgery is not clear in all the articles or any guidelines, so that is why for the timing it is very important that we keep a track of the preparation as well as obturation in the first go only. Nowadays, with the availability of thermoplastic obturation, it is important that we understand that there is going to be a chance of sealer extrusion. So at all times, we should follow the Schilder's mechanical objectives of root canal preparation, which have stated that the continuous taper should be maintained and multiple planar forms should be used while preparation of the root canal. Then we should also maintain the apical foramen as small as practical. And this is how we will lead to a successful root canal and not the sealer puffs. Coming to the conclusion, aiming for radiographic beauties diverts attention from the main canal preparation, and apical puffs are not the criteria to judge a successful root canal treatment. Instead, they are an effect of complete and three-dimensional obturation of the root canal treatment. The overfills beyond 1 mm of the CDJ, that is the cemento-dentinal junction, can produce inflammatory reactions, and hence they should be avoided. Thank you.